Hello, hello. Yes, I am there. How are you? You win the prize. So I can actually see the comments. I'm monitoring them from the studio window. So hello, hello. It's nice to see you. Well, in the chat, but you can see me. And that's the main thing. That means everything's working well if you can actually see me. So. I shall do my introduction. Yo, 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 yo. What's up? Give up the rock. And today we're going to get to having a look at some, recent events. Well, we are going to look at a surprising event that happened recently in South Korea. I'm not sure if you've heard of it or about it, Beatrice, but there was a coup attempt in South Korea. Apparently, the president in South Korea basically declared martial law. I think he was trying to take over the government, maybe some type of military style. So like get the military to come in on his behalf, order them around, take over. Um, Coup is coup is a French term um, for I think coup actually in French means hit. But like coup is just another word for when a political party or a rebel group or some type of group basically overthrows a government. Usually an elected government, but it doesn't have to be. It can just be one regime change to another, but it's done outside of a formal process and it's usually done by force somehow. And that's what people are calling it. So I don't know if this is actually a coup. But for those who know the word, it sounds sexy in like headlines and all that sort of stuff. And it's a four-letter word, so it's easy to say and grab people's attention in the media. So we're going to have a look at the coup, the supposed coup in South Korea, and like just get across it because like I'm not too across it, though I am somewhat like a little bit across like Korean history, like in the modern sense, like basically World War II onwards. Um, and I would like to basically get a bit more of an understanding of what the hell happened here. So this is the guy. Let me show you his face. This guy here, this bad boy right here. And so yeah, El Presidente over here did try to pull, I don't know, some weird political maneuver a couple of days ago by declaring martial law, which expose him, expose him. Yeah, we're going to expose him today. My coffee is here. Thank you for asking. I have got it ready, but it's a bit hot. That's what happens when you drink it so dark. It's a little bit hot today. So I'm going to wait for it to cool down a bit before I start sipping on it live on YouTube. Um, so old mate over here um, declared martial law. So martial law is when, there's basically a curfew or something like that. You can't go out onto the streets in certain time periods, usually at night. And so like the public is restricted to their homes, and martial law is kind of carried out by the military. So the National Guard or some type of military force comes in and implements martial law, and everybody has to stay inside. Bro, do you use sugar in it? No, no, I don't. I kind of dip in and out of use of sugar. Like a few months ago, yes, I was using sugar. But like at the moment, no. So it just depends how I'm feeling, really. If I feel like I need to be more sweet, I will add a little bit of sugar, but not at the moment. Not at the moment. So yeah, we're gonna have a look at Korea and like what the hell's happening there. I just got like a interesting link. You never trust people who don't put sugar in it. Really? Well, like you can half trust me. Like as I said, I go in and out of phases. So if you can read from that what you want, that would just say I am sometimes trustworthy and sometimes not. I'll leave it up to you to guess. Kidding. Okay, fair enough. But still. Um, yeah, we're going to look at that. We're going to talk about as well. I might touch on something that's happened recently, where there's been like the CEO of a big insurance company in America was shot. And like when a CEO of a big company gets shot, you have to question what the hell is going on. In the background, the free market might not be as squeaky clean as everybody likes to think it is. And then we're going to talk about collectivism. I'm going to debate AI about the idea of collectivism. So, like, we'll just cover what collectivism means, and like, you know, get AI to take up a contrary position and tell us why collectivism is such a bad idea. Because a lot of people think it's evil and all that sort of stuff. So let's cover that. Do you think we ever going to approach? Oh, approach, like when you say approach, like do you mean like discuss North Korea? Or approach them somehow as like turning to what North Korea has in terms of their society? I hope it's the former, not the latter, because North Korean society is pretty hardcore. Um, yeah, debate. Okay, yeah, we could do that. We could definitely do that. If that's something that you're interested in, learning about North Korea, I have done a video on North Korea. It's a bit old now, so like I'd have to go back and make sure I still agree with everything that I had said in it, or like if it's just it doesn't cover the right stuff. That's a good question. Are they communist? Okay. Well, like, look, this is my answer, and like, you know, this pisses people off all over the place. But my answer is that they call themselves communists. So they basically have a communist party that's in control of their society, and it's labeled the Communist Party. Yo, what's up? Give up the rock. Hello. It's 4IS in the house. Give up the rock. Yeah, Beatrice, she's all over it. Okay, so back to your question. Are they communists? No, they're not communists. Do they have a communist party in control? Yes. Is that confusing? Absolutely. And so because they call themselves communists and they have a party that's called communists, everybody thinks they're communists, which is fair enough. You know, that's how they labeled themselves. But like, do they actually have a communist like society where there is no class division, like there's no money, and everybody kind of contributes what they can and takes what they need? No. They have forced military service, they have forced labor, they have a, you know, kind of a ruling dictator for life and an aristocracy of some sorts. They have a level of political organization within the party only. And from what I can understand, the society is largely totalitarian. So yes, I don't think so. It's badass. Damn right, it's badass. We used to be so hardcore for IS. Yeah, we used to be so HK. So yeah. Anyway, I don't think they are. I don't think they are communist at all. But that's always controversial, and depending who you speak to, they define it differently. So anyway, let's go over then and see. This is something that our mate, Chairman of the Cord, also known in the YouTube sphere as Jerry Poppins. He was the person who suggested we watch this video. So let's get on it and let's see what this person is. Mujin, yeah. How to go from president to unemployed in 6 hours. Yeah, Bad Behavior is actually a song. Yeah, I don't think we ever released it though. Yeah. Bad Behavior. Wow, I'm having flashbacks for us. All right, I'm going to start this video. Let's do this.
Life's absolutely ruined after Guys, the South Korea situation is crazy, okay? The president's life's absolutely ruined after one of the dumbest decisions I've seen in my life. The dude tried to pull an Emperor Palpatine, but absolutely failed miserably. Not even half an hour after he stated what he was going to do, the South Koreans all went to the streets and protested. Even though the weather was extremely cold and there was a snowstorm going on, they were not going to deal with his antics. But this wasn't even close to the craziest thing that happened throughout this incident. You had the leader of the opposing party live stream himself trying to go against the orders of the president. Okay, this was absolutely wild. What essentially happened was that the South Korean president enacted martial law, hoping to seize full, unquestionable power, mobilizing the military and seeking to disrupt the entire country. In the end, though, he ended up completely underestimating his...
Alright, so that is actually a coup. So this guy's actually tried to call in martial law and take over the country so he could take full power for himself. That is actually a coup. If he's trying to take power away from like the government or something like that and in his own interests, then it is. If this is true, this source. You know, Grand Theft Liberal. He hides under his mask being all mysterious, all professional, all revolutionary. But he a baddie. Yeah. I haven't heard those ones yet. I don't remember. Yeah, anyway, this is a coup apparently, according to this guy.
Made a grave miscalculation. Make no mistake, this will be in the history books of your children. So I figured we should probably talk about it. Let's do it. On December 3rd, around 10:27 p.m. South Korean time, the South Korean president, with no prior announcement or warning, declared martial law.
What time was that?
On December 3rd, around 10:27 p.m. South Korean time.
What a weird time to do something. Isn't that strange? Like most people, I don't know, are done for the day at 10:30 at night, just being like, all right, I'm just going to slip this one in the back door. No one will notice. It's martial law, by the way. Like, I wouldn't get the memo. I'd probably be asleep by then, let's be honest. That's crazy. Anyway. Never saw someone holding a cup with both hands. Well, take it in. I hope you enjoy it, because I'm going to continue to do so.
The South Korean president, with no prior announcement or warning, declared martial law, emergency martial law, saying that he had to rein in the country because too many politicians were corrupt and working with the enemy, which is North Korea. He said he wanted to fix the country. Now, under the constitution of South Korea, the president can by himself actually declare martial law. What he was doing was fully within his rights. But for South Koreans, especially the ones from older generations, martial law was bad news no matter how you worded it. The last time a martial law was imposed was in the year of 1980. A rogue general had taken over the country and imposed martial law on it, closed down all newspapers, silenced anyone who was against him, arrested politicians, and put the country under dictatorship. Many South Koreans tried to go up against him, but unfortunately left this planet doing so, let's just say. The martial law order only ended up being lifted in 1981. After 456 days of suffering. And it was only in 1987 that the Sixth Republic of Korea was written and then put into place in 1988. Ever since then, it's been a democracy and there hasn't been any martial law order imposed. So what the hell led us here? How are we here today? Well, Yoon Suk-yeol has been the president of South Korea.
All right. So I just want to say here that like this type of stuff, this martial law, which is what this guy has covered as well, it's not unusual in South Korean history. Martial law is basically, yeah, something that they have been periodically using for every single decade, basically, since the end of the Korean War in the 50s. So real massive crash course in Korean kind of political history. But we had like we basically have World War II happens and the Japanese are defeated. Once the Japanese are defeated in World War II, they're kind of pushed out of North Korea by like pushed out of North Korea, pushed out of Korea um, by kind of actually socialist and national liberation groups that are supported by like communists and stuff like that, especially by communist China too, by extension, you know. And so the Koreans kind of get their liberation from Japan, and that's like in huge. Like the Koreans have been kind of on and off colonized by the Japanese for a long time, and absolutely suppressed by the Japanese. And so like they're happy that they've escaped, yeah, the clutches of Japanese colonial rule or Japanese imperialism, and they're actually quite happy to be unified. Okay, for the first time in history, and then what happens is, are we talking about North Korea in the chat? Or are we talking about just Koreans generally? But like, yeah, and then um, kind of after World War II, and there's like a few years of like kind of things settling down, you have the Korean War, where basically Russia is in the top part of Korea, and like kind of so are the Chinese, and they're spreading communism basically. And the Americans have figured out that they don't want the whole of like kind of East Asia, um, bar Japan, to be kind of under communist kind of influence. So they set up shop in South Korea and they split Korea along like literally halfway along one of the parallel lines, I think it's called. And it's like the 38th division or something like that. And yeah, they literally cut Korea in half, and they're like, all right, you commies can have the top half, and us, you know, capitalist pigs are gonna have the bottom half of Korea, and like they literally, you know, just cut the nation in two, like you know the people didn't really matter at all, and they had no say in it. Like I said, like the liberation movement that went through Korea was kind of backed by like the entire population of Korea because they wanted to be a united nation. And like a lot of it was like socialist kind of backed movements and liberation struggles. And so it was throughout the whole of Korea. And so when the Americans kind of, you know, made a deal with Stalin kind of thing to cut Korea in half, um, they did so completely just as like two imperialist powers would do, with absolutely no regard for the local population and what the local population wanted. This obviously, you know, lasted so long, and then there was the Korean War. So like the North, as they say, the North invaded the South. Um, but like if you think of it, or if you listen from a northern perspective, it was a little bit different to that. The Northerners were saying that they were trying to, you know, make good on the Korean dream, which was the unification of the people. And like there were plenty of people in the South that were actually happy to have the North come in and liberate them, kind of from American rule. And I say American rule because like what we've already heard this guy talk about, which is like South Korea was basically just a dictatorship. So like the Americans put in a puppet dictator, and like they ruled with kind of impunity. It wasn't a democratic society by any stretch of the imagination. And like it's really weird because when everyone talks about like, you know, North Korea being this evil dictatorship, like South Korea, it didn't really have democracy until like the 80s or the 90s or something like that. Like it was constantly under military dictatorship after military dictatorship, and it just was opened up to capitalism. So everyone was like, oh, it's free, you know, it's free from communism and stuff like that. But like it was exactly the same scenario as the North. It had a dictator in there that was controlling everything. So like, you know, you know, the free South is literally just free from communism. Um, they both lived under dictatorships. Free from communism. God, I hope that wasn't a spelling mistake and you're actually referring to it as cum-unism, because that's hilarious. I've never heard anyone say that before. Minor obstacle that's getting in the way of their show. Anyway, so there's a bit of a crash course in some Korean history for you. But basically, since South Korea was kind of, that was indeed a spelling mistake. Damn. It would have been hilarious if you meant that on purpose. Communism. Hilarious. Yeah, so ever since basically South Korea and North Korea went back to the divide basically after the Korean War was over, like South Korea has kind of just been ruled by like basically military kind of dictators and like not very liberally democratic societies until almost the 90s, which is just it's not the narrative that you get, because it's always like, you know, evil dictator, North Korea, supreme leader, etc., etc. But like South Korea had like 5 or 6 republics or something like that. Each time a new military dictator came in, like they almost went from decade to decade. So like the 50s there was one, and the 60s there was one, the 70s there was one, and the 80s, and then the 90s they got to their 6th republic, because like the military dictators that kept coming in and like overthrowing each other, kind of thing, like, you know, military coup kind of stuff. They'd write their own like constitutions and then form their own republics kind of thing. And like everyone's just like, oh, you know, that's normal. But like, yeah, this is the context behind what's going on. So all I'm saying is that, one, this whole like coup kind of stuff, it's not unusual for the South Koreans. And like 2, like military dictatorships and all that sort of stuff, not unusual for the South Koreans too. It's not like this was some type of utopian liberal fantasy world and everyone lived free and democratic existences. The Koreans like are very used to being under the thumb of some basically autocratic rule. And so like this guy's just doing the exact same thing as all the other ones have done. Classic case of there being dictatorships on both the North and the South. They act like it's just the North. Yeah. Awkward moments that learning English will put you through. At least made someone laugh. It was great. It was really good. And I don't know why no one has thought of that joke before. Like, it's such a good joke. Don't melt. Don't melt. That was great. Hilarious.
Korea since 2022. But very shortly after taking office, he became very disliked by his population. South Koreans were seeing him as ineffective, someone who couldn't put into place impactful policies to advance the country forward. And by 2024, his approval rating is as low as 20%. This means that 8 out of 10 South Koreans don't like him and want him out of the office. I mean, I think...
Great chocolatey taste and 25% less sugar.
God.
To say that even Kim Jong-un has a higher approval rating and he wasn't even voted in by his population. He is deeply unpopular. This unpopularity stretches even to the National Assembly, where the party that has the majority of votes is the opposing party, the one who is against the president. They're called the Democratic Party. So he hasn't really had much luck there either, not able to pass the bills he wants to pass.
Yeah.
Very recently, on November 29th, 2024, the budget that the president wants to pass for 2025 was cut by $2.9 billion. This was done by the opposition party, the Democratic Party. The same party who's been trying to investigate the wife of the president multiple times now over corruption charges, and just very recently started the process to impeach the head of the state audit agency and 3 prosecutors involved in those scandals. So as you can see, the president has a bit of a rivalry with the Democratic Party. This led many to theorize that all these things accumulated led him to take the decision of martial law, with the budget cut being the final nail in the coffin. He saw his political career ending with shame and decided to take a huge risk, but it's a risk that stank miles away. It simply didn't smell like the best of intentions. Look, there's two different kinds of martial laws: emergency martial law and security martial law, okay? The most drastic one is emergency martial law, which is the one he had imposed, the same one that was used in 1980. So he could essentially close any media publication he wants to, arrest any person on South Korean soil without any arrest warrant needed, impose curfews, and straight up confiscate someone's bank account if he wanted to. And the list goes on. He can do pretty much anything he wants to with no approval needed. The only thing that can stop him is the National Assembly voting to lift the martial law. That's the only threat he faces while having absolute power. Panic was starting to set in. Whether you were a normal citizen, someone in the military, a police officer, it didn't matter. Something like this hadn't happened in over 40 years, and they had no warning prior. The whole thing was extremely unorganized. Now, unfortunately, the initial reaction in the West to this was K-pop stans being worried that their favorite K-pop groups were not going to perform anymore, because after the martial law was imposed, major entertainment companies were canceling events. But hey, I guess they helped spread the word around? As the news was starting to reach the West, we received more updates from South Korea. The martial law commander was—
Isn't that funny? Like, that's how capitalism really works. Like, a coup's declared, and consumers out there are worried about not being able to see their favorite K-pop band or group after buying tickets, which I'm sure are very expensive. That's mental. It's the consumers out there that are spreading the word, not the media or political like commentary and stuff like that. People were worried about their products. Fuck. It's not fucked. It's fucked. Seriously. It is. It's a bit of a contradiction. It is, isn't it? But like, you know, I guess what it really highlights is where people's priorities are in a market society. And it's just like, oh shit, the Koreans have gone down. God, I hope I can go to that K-pop concert. I really love consuming their stuff. And I paid a lot of money for that ticket. Don't worry about the South Koreans, though. They'll be fine. As long as I can watch my K-pop.
Was announced. It was going to be a man by the name of Park An-soo. He then proceeded to shock the world with his first announcement after taking over this position: that all activities related to the National Assembly and political parties are now banned. I think you're starting to understand why this was such a big deal, right? The only people who can stop the martial law have effectively been banned, well, from being able to stop it. It was very clear now why the president was so secretive, why there were no prior announcements. He had announced the martial law order at 10:30 p.m. so that the National Assembly members could not make it to the National Assembly. He wanted to catch them all off guard and take control while they were sleeping. All of this was confirmed when a big problem had revealed itself. The military had been mobilized to block all access to the National Assembly. The stakes at this point could not have been any higher. The South Koreans were essentially seeing their democracy slip through their fingers, and the older generation was having terrible flashbacks back to the year of 1980. But South Korean men are obligated to serve in the South Korean military through conscription, and while women are not obligated to, they can still voluntarily join. This meant that they didn't really fear the military as much as a regular person would, and they weren't just gonna—
That's interesting, isn't it? Okay, it doesn't really work in your favor all the time, hey? Having conscription? There's people across what the military is up to.
back down as much as a regular person would, and they weren't just gonna back down. Even after fully understanding the situation, the opposition Democratic Party urgently summoned its members of the National Assembly. They were going to go and lift that martial law even if the entire army was standing in their way. The South Korean people were aware of these efforts, so they made their way to the National Assembly to help them. There's this clip right here that went absolutely viral of a woman holding a rifle in front of her and not giving a single shit about what would happen if it was shot. Watch. The president was
Whoa.
not going against the
Whoa.
opposition party here. He was going against these
That was hardcore. That was mental. But like she fought off someone that was pointing a gun at her, and like he just like backed off, like real fast. It was like, it's not worth it. Watch out for these Koreans. Look at her go.
The president was not going against the opposition party here. He was going against these regular people. And he had grossly miscalculated just how strong these people.
All right, I think this is a really important thing to note here. Can we just say that like when it comes to like revolutionary events and stuff like that, if you hear about what happens in Russia, for example, during the Bolshevik Revolution, the people are extremely important, and like for any type of like democratic organization like an assembly, right? So their parliament, basically, you know, at 10:30 at night, this guy drops a bombshell. They want to get into parliament so they can actually veto his decision. The only way constitutionally possible is by getting into Parliament House, getting into the assembly. And so there's a scramble to get in, and the military's trying to stop them from getting in. And like the only thing, okay, that is going to allow the parliament, the members of parliament, to do their job, to get in, to constitutionally block the president who's just gone rogue and is trying to set up a actual military coup, is if people get the message through social media, by the sounds of it, and they form a people's resistance group out the front of Parliament House, fight off the military that are supposed to be blocking the parliamentarians and the members of the assembly so they can get into the building. This is like people power in action. And like, that's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. You go, Koreans.
Were. He had sent the military, he had sent helicopters flying over the National Assembly trying to dissuade people from even approaching it, but nothing was working. The leader of the opposition party live streamed himself, okay, sneaking into the National Assembly by hopping over a fence. Like, this is something that you don't see at all. This is crazy. People were in full defiance here. This is such an incredible image that really shows you how the South Korean people came together very quickly to make sure that all the parliament members get through to the National Assembly. This picture looks like a Renaissance painting. I mean, they're over here lifting the parliament member up the fence so that he can go and vote on nullifying this crazy martial law order. You truly don't see this every day. The members were able to sneak into the National Assembly and start the vote. However, the military was still trying to stop them. They were breaking windows and trying to get to the National Assembly to stop whatever was going on, because under martial law, this was illegal. But again, the South Korean people showed incredible resilience. They put up barricades from inside the National Assembly. I mean, look at this. This is crazy. Look at all this furniture in front of the doors. Good luck getting through that. Okay, it's not happening unless you have a bulldozer. This is what happens when your citizens go through conscription. They were using the military's tactics against them. And thanks to their efforts, 190 members of the National Assembly were able to make it and vote yes to lift the martial law order, completely defying the president. Now, of course, this was a great moment, but it didn't mean much just yet. The president had to acknowledge this and actually order the military to leave. If he didn't, things would have gotten very complicated and he would have been accused of treason. Thankfully though, 6 hours after declaring the martial law order, he did another speech acknowledging the National Assembly's vote and completely lifting it. As soon as he did that, the soldiers started leaving the National Assembly, retreating, and getting back.
That's mental. That's mental. Isn't that nuts?
Back to their.
Sorry, I've missed a whole bunch of stuff in the chat. If it was in Brazil and he was black, he would have had to react like that to be shot. Guess in other places too. Privileged people in whatever ways they would try and help the movement of the non-privileged people. Do you remember in the last live you told me, MysterE, that things that in some matters women should be the only ones to give their opinion on? I get it, but like for example, if a black man talk about how racism is bad and telling it to racist folks, he won't stand a chance because they won't listen to him at all. If a white person comes there and they'll tell, hey bro, be a little bit rational, then they may listen to him because he's one of them. That makes sense to you. Yeah, I am denying her ads. I hate the ads. I'm sorry. Um, Look, I know what you're talking about. Like, I think I understand the concept you're talking about here, which is like when I was talking about abortion the other day, and I said it's really only that women should be making the decision. Um, and then I said, unless there, you know, there's a biological father, and then there's a biological father that should also be making the decision process. But for the most part, it should be women making that type of decision. When it comes to something like racism, though, it takes all sorts. Like, it's not only the victims of racism, it's also the perpetrators, so the people that are being racist. And so you have to educate society as a whole, and you have to take that as a society-wide approach to an issue. Now, when it comes to like abortion and stuff like that, though, like, let's be honest. As much as men would love, or some men, I guess, would love to have babies, like, you know, like literally they don't have a womb, so like they're not going to be able to do it, and like they don't go through the psychological, emotional journey and experience of getting pregnant. And so like that's why there is a clear distinction there. But when it comes to racism, it takes all sorts. Like anyone can be racist. um and so like that's more of a cultural problem, where like abortion and pregnancy and stuff, that's a physiological problem, if you can call it a problem. I don't think it's a problem getting pregnant, but like, you know, um it really comes down to a distinction in anatomy. And so like I do think that the people that are more susceptible to um that physiological difference should have more of a say in that debate. But I did make the distinction the other day that like if you are the biological father and you're aware of that, you should have some understanding. What I really think, or the group that I think who should be really excluded from that, and I did say that the other day, was the state. Like, I don't know why the state should have anything to do with that. So if the state makes a law that like abortion is illegal, why the hell are they getting involved on someone's individual autonomy? Like that's a decision for the individual and potentially, like I said, the father. But like for the most part, I think the conversation generally should be held, or at least curated and managed, by women. The conversation, that is. I'm gonna have to brush up on my Portuguese. Um, so I'm not gonna read that one out loud because I'll embarrass myself because I can't express myself good enough in English. Fair enough. Fair enough. I might have to get Google to interpret that for me later. But this is nuts. This is a proper coup situation. Like, this is like people standing up for like kind of the government that they believe in. Like, they obviously think that this style of government is way better than like going under martial law and having like a military dictator or dictatorship of a like a rogue president that's supported by the military. So like, you know, why not? I wonder what happens to that Mr. Park now, the military commander that we gave the order that like any workings of the assembly is illegal. I wonder what happens to him now.
Normal lives. The South Korean people pretty much won, making sure to not repeat the same events that had happened in 1980 and all the other martial laws that were abused by people who wanted to stay in power. When things started to calm down, the Democratic Party revealed that the military planned to arrest the assembly speaker and party leaders under martial law, which made them review possible insurrection charges. I think it's common sense to say that if you want to arrest your political opponents, that is pretty much against what democracy stands for. That's a very serious accusation. Shortly after, the Democratic Party floor leader, Park Chan-dae, called for President Yoon to step down immediately, saying President Yoon cannot avoid the charge of treason, he must step down immediately. As this was all happening, the senior aides and secretaries of the president have started resigning in droves. This was a complete failed coup, okay? He had turned from dictator to clown in the span of like 4 hours. Even his own senior officials can't back him up anymore. The dude screwed up royally. At this point, it's almost guaranteed that he's going to get impeached and most likely also probably thrown into jail. This was a massive wake-up call to South Korea because they haven't had to deal with something like this for over 40 years. Thankfully, they were able to avert the crisis, but still, one has to think, what if it did end up working? What would have happened then? But I think the funniest thing in all this is that there are people who slept early and woke up and had no idea this had happened. Protests and fights in the country with an imminent dictatorship and are just now finding out. Like this person right here who commented on my YouTube post saying, I'm literally in Korea right now for a visit and this shit happens while I was asleep from jet lag. LMAO, my whole Korean family's hella pissed at him and calling him a clown. I saw a lot of confusion about this topic with many people not knowing what happened, so I thought I'd make a quick video explaining it. Hope it helped. Thank you for watching till the end, and I'll see you in the next video. Love you. Mwah.
That's pretty funny. That's hilarious. He got done on treason. Yeah, well, like, that's what they're claiming. So the impeachment process will ensue, I guess. Like the charges will be laid on the basis of treason, and if found guilty, then they may prosecute on that basis as well. That's crazy. Korea, eh? Didn't think they had it in them. All right, so I got another one here from a gentleman by the name of 4IS. He put this in the Discord. So we're going to check this one out and see if there's anything else that's going on that we can have a look at as well. So yeah, why not? Let's do this.
Late on Tuesday night, South Korea's embattled President Yoon Suk-yeol delivered a shocking address and declared martial law in the country, vowing to eradicate so-called anti-state forces, a move not seen in South Korea since the end of military rule 4 decades ago. But in a stunning reversal, just 6 hours after plunging South Korea into crisis, Yoon backtracked and lifted martial law. This was a truly shocking turn of events that basically no one was expecting. So in this video, we're going to explain what happened, why Yoon declared martial law, how it fell apart so quickly, and what it means for him and South Korea going forward. Before we start, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to stay in the loop and be notified when we release new videos. Let's jump straight in and look at President Yoon's bombshell announcement. Yoon said he was declaring martial law to, quote, protect the Free Republic of Korea from the threat of North Korean communist forces, to eradicate the shameless pro-North Korean anti-state forces that are plundering the freedom and happiness of our people, and to protect the free constitutional order. Adding that, with martial law, he would, quote, rebuild and protect the Free Republic of Korea and aim to normalize the country as soon as possible. So what are these scary anti-state pro-North Korean forces that Yoon was referring to? Well, he was talking about South Korea's opposition-controlled National Assembly, which he said had become a den of criminals. We'll come back to this later, but the TLDR for now is that Yoon's ruling Conservative Party has been butting heads with South Korea's liberal opposition.
Capitalist dog whistle thing as well. It's just like, oh, look, I can just blame communists on something so I can declare martial law, right? It's so good having, like, communists, isn't it? Because then, like, if you have dirty commies everywhere, you can do whatever you want and just call it democracy. You can literally declare martial law and say you're protecting people's constitutional freedoms and democracy by literally destroying democracy. Because communists exist, you can say you're defending democracy. I'm going to take your rights away and claim it's the communists. Yes, yes. It's fucking incredible. It's fucking incredible. And that's another Chomsky-esque and Herman tactic in ye old manufacturing consent as well. Having a boogeyman to heck keeps the population in check, right? So you have that evil enemy. So whenever you want to do anything that you really can't justify, you can say, hey, they're coming for you. And if you don't let me do this, you're all fucked. It's mental.
Democratic Party, which has a parliamentary majority for some time now. In particular,
I think
they've
that's
been
like actually quite a good point as well. That like this guy, this douchebag over here has done this because they had like he wasn't able to lead in an effective manner, which is something that is riddling, liberal democracies all over the world at the moment. Is like a lot of people have like minority governments, and like they're in a position where maybe the president is not like representative of the general vibe in the parliament, so they can't get the stuff that they want to get done across, so they don't have the majority, and like people aren't from their party. And so like liberal democracies in terms of the governance of things and like how legislation is produced and how things move through houses of parliament is becoming really, really inefficient at the moment and really ineffective. And so you have all of these people. You have like potential dictators over here. You have like populists that are just like, democracy's not working. Democracy's not working because we can't get like majority of governments because people are just so pissed off and disenfranchised because they can't get majority of governments. They can't govern properly. People are not able to basically do their job as politicians. And so like then people lose faith in democracy. And you can see this is like this paradox. This is like a downward spiral kind of thing. And the less effective governments are, the less people have faith in democracy. And so they start voting for people that like are, anti-democratic. And then we go down this path and like authoritarianism is coming for everyone. It's part of my grand theory. I've been talking about it for a while. I do see a trend towards authoritarianism and like a loosening up or a retraction away from democratic values. It's happening. The more I live in the world, I now get how Marx and Engels are so obsessed with contradictions. Yes. Yes. Yeah, like you can really use a dialectical understanding of things. Oh, like there's a push in this direction, and then there's a pull over here, and like it's just back and forth, back and forth. But like while you're in the thick of it, of the push and the pull, then you get dragged over this side. It might come back again. It will. The question is like, I guess when. But like you can really see a push and pull scenario at play, a pulsation, if you will. And yeah, between contradictory forces. It explains a lot. And at the moment, because of, like I said, the ineffectual nature of like 21st century liberal democratic processes, where we're getting a lot of minority governments, we're getting like hung parliaments, we're getting situations where you have presidents that are different to, that are like, that don't align with the major political parties that are in parliaments and stuff like that. You're seeing democracy in terms of its governance come to a standstill, come to an absolute standstill. While, might I add, you have China over there, sitting there with its central planning and its one party state, absolutely killing it. Absolutely killing it. Eh? And the question is going to be asked is, what's the better system? What's the better way of governance? Liberal democracy or one-party central planning? Time will tell. Time will tell. I'm back. Where we at? All right, we are basically still we're watching a different video now on like the same Korean incident. But like we've just been discussing like how democracy is failing in terms of its governance. And like people are taking extreme measures as a result of that. And like people are getting more and more fed up with democracy as well, the less it is able to answer their problems. And like let's be honest, there's two divisions in society. Ultimately, there's the ruling class and the working class. And working class people, the more pressure they're facing, like, you know, cost of living crisis, inflation crisis, drops in their living standards, drops in their overall health and well-being, the more of those types of pressures they're feeling, the more they're going to question politically what's going on, and they're going to look for alternatives to the current political system, and that is going to be authoritarian. That's what I see coming.
In a dispute over next year's budget, and the opposition have also been attempting to impeach several government officials, including some top prosecutors. According to Yoon, since the start of his administration, the National Assembly has launched some 22 impeachment motions against government officials, which he described as unprecedented. Yoon also said that the opposition's, quote, legislative dictatorship had paralysed the country and amounted to an attempted overthrow of the liberal democratic system. So, what exactly is martial law? It's effectively temporary rule by military authorities during times of emergency, and the country's Army Chief of Staff, Park An-soo, was quickly confirmed as the head of the Martial Law Command. The command then quickly issued a decree that banned all political activities, including those of the National Assembly, political parties, as well as any protests, subjected all media and publications to the control of the Martial Law Command, prohibited strikes and work stoppages, and said that violators of the decree may be arrested, detained and searched without warrant, and punished in accordance with the Martial Law Act. Now, constitutionally speaking, the president has the power to declare martial law during wartime, warlike situations, or other comparable national emergency states that require the use of military force to maintain peace and order. You can decide for yourself if you think that threshold was met, but condemnation of the move came in swiftly, unsurprisingly from the opposition, who declared it an unconstitutional move,
surprise.
but also from the chief of
The trillion-dollar question is not the next step, i.e. they'll be sold lies by opportunistic conservatives, but the step after that. What will happen after they realized they've been lied to? That's a good question. I think that assumes that they will realize that they've been lied to. That might take a while for IS. That could take a long time, in my opinion. Especially if you have authoritarian, like, look at this, like, part of the martial law is like they seize any kind of, like, they can seize media outlets and stop people from, like, you know, dissenting and opposing the martial law and the dictatorship. So, like, under an authoritarian regime, you have to, one, be able to get access to information in order to figure out that you've been lied to, and then be able to do something about it. And, like, authoritarianism isn't usually that liberal when it comes to media and dissenting voices. So it's a tough one. It's a big one, mate. I must admit. Got 3 people viewing at the moment, I think. Please introduce yourself if you haven't already. Say hi. We would love to know that you're there and if you're watching. So yeah, say hi. Don't be shy. We're just going through the Korean coup. And we're talking about, like, the rise of authoritarianism across the liberal democratic societies of the world. Oh, it's David. Yes. Our US correspondent. Hello. And happy Friday from Australia. We are looking at the Korean coup incident. So, like, I don't know if you're across what's happened in Korea, but like, yeah, we're trying to make sense of what it is that actually happened over there, and then, like, it's actually Thursday for you. Well, yes. Hello from the future, then, and I can tell you that the future is bright. So don't worry about it. Yeah, so we're just trying to go through basically and figure out what was happening exactly with the coup, and see, like, what the broader implications are for society, especially, like I said, liberal democracies at large, what this kind of means. And, like, I think this is a trend. This is indicative of a trend towards authoritarianism because liberal democracies are failing to be efficient in their governance. They're being locked up in like red tape and all that sort of stuff, and they're not doing their jobs effectively. And like, it's noticeable. It's noticeable. And so people are reacting, and like some people are taking it into their own hands, but like the people themselves are reacting to that and, you know, electing kind of hardcore right-wing strongmen that are going to do the job and fix all the problems with the system. But we all know the problems won't be fixed. We won't be able to do that without revolution. Remember that. That's why we're all revolutionaries. But let's continue to learn about this South Korean coup, which ended up being pretty hardcore in the end. Like the people came to the rescue, which is like the best part about the story. Is like it's the people that blocked the coup, not the politicians themselves. Like they were helped and they blocked it, like, you know, procedurally, but it was the people that did it in the end. But like we'll get to that.
Of President Yoon's own People Power Party, who vowed to block it, as well as the mayor of Seoul, also from Yoon's party. Chaos quickly erupted outside the South Korean legislature, where protesters soon gathered, as did police and soldiers who tried to hold them back. Dramatic live footage also appeared to show troops, seemingly tasked with enforcing martial law rules, trying to enter the National Assembly, where Parliament aides attempted to push them back by spraying fire extinguishers and building a makeshift barricade. Nevertheless, within roughly 2.5 hours of martial law being declared, more than half of the National Assembly's 300 lawmakers managed to gather in the chamber, with some having resorted to climbing over the walls to bypass military barricades.
How good's that?
And ultimately
Seriously.
voted 190-0 to block the declaration of martial law, including 18 from Yoon's own party, a move that under the constitution, President Yoon legally had to comply with. There followed a long period of silence from Yoon. Lawmakers stayed put in the National Assembly and protests continued through the night. Then, at roughly 4:30 a.m., Yoon announced in a live broadcast that in line with the National Assembly's vote, he had withdrawn the troops deployed for martial law duties, and following this, the government had lifted martial law, some 6 hours after he first declared it. So, this all raises an obvious question. What the hell was Yoon thinking? Well, it's important to know some wider context. Yoon, a conservative who was elected in 2022, is deeply unpopular, and his administration has been hamstrung by the opposition, who have controlled the...
So this is what we were talking about before. Thursday, for you too. Well, welcome from wherever you are joining us from. I am in Australia, and we are broadcasting to you from the future. So yeah, welcome. Welcome, Honey32. Welcome to the chat. Yeah, this is interesting because he's a conservative, right? He's a conservative, but his party doesn't have enough members in the parliament. So like, I'm not sure exactly how the Korean system works exactly, but the usual situation with like president to parliament kind of situations is like presidents have kind of executive powers and stuff like that, and they obviously formal dignitaries and like they're heads of state, so they do all the nice stuff like go around the world shaking hands, kissing babies and stuff, but like the policy stuff is left to Parliament House, and like usually the majority party in the Parliament House kind of forms the government themselves, and like the Prime Minister liaises with the president. In a good and functioning situation between president and like, you know, a parliamentary system, you would have like the president that is aligned, at least politically, with like the people that have formed government. And so like it all works effectively. The president wants something, talks to the prime minister, they get it through parliament and stuff. But like in this situation, you have this guy who is a conservative, and the majority of party in the actual parliament is of another political party, his opposition. And so he is trying to get legislation through and stuff like that, that he wants as a president, and it's never going to happen because the opposition party are just like, fuck you, not going to happen, buddy. And so like they're probably, I would say, deliberately blocking stuff that he wants to do to show that he's a shit leader. and like it's obviously working because his approval ratings are low. And then they're also, as the majority of party, they're using their parliamentary privileges, of course. They're trying to impeach him and other members of his party and his cabinet and stuff like that. So basically they're investigating him and like other members of his cabinet on like certain charges of like misconduct and stuff like that. And then like they will investigate it, and then like something will happen as a result of that impeachment. So like he is literally ineffective at the moment, or has been ineffective, and his popularity is just hit rock bottom. So just changing nicknames, try to make it a bit cooler. Well. Okay, well, welcome back then. Welcome back if you are changing it up, honey. All right, well, let's continue then.
National Assembly for his entire term in office. The opposition resoundingly won this year's legislative election, effectively leaving Yoon a lame duck with no easy route through the remainder of his term. Both Yoon and his wife have come under significant scrutiny and have been accused of corruption in several cases, which have added to the pressure and his unpopularity. As we mentioned earlier, the opposition have moved to impeach various officials, including prosecutors, for failing to investigate the alleged corruption, and the opposition has also been seeking to slash billions from Yoon's proposed budget, seen as an attempt to rein in the presidency by targeting cuts on the presidential office, national prosecutors, and the police. So you could see Yoon's move as a seriously high-stakes gamble that he hoped would allow him to neuter the opposition and secure his own position. But as attempted self-coups go, this was about as poorly planned as they get. He may have had some support within his cabinet and parts of the military, but he had virtually no political support, and reports suggest that all but a few of his inner circle were kept in the dark. The attempt to prevent lawmakers from gathering in the National Assembly evidently failed, as both regular citizens and lawmakers were quick to mobilise even at the late hour of the night. It's genuinely hard to imagine how Yoon thought this would go, even in his best-case scenario. Even a successful outcome for him would surely have required military repression of lawmakers and protests that were guaranteed to erupt. South Korea's democracy has been particularly hard-won, and its rocky path through the 1950s to the 80s involved coups, assassinations, dictatorships, uprisings, and massacres. The declaration of martial law will have had particular emotional weight because those troubled times are within the living memory of plenty of Koreans. And the last time martial law was declared, back in 1980, it resulted in the massacre of hundreds of pro-democracy demonstrators by soldiers in Gwangju. Ultimately, Yoon was already a weak and embattled president, but in the space of one night, he seemingly destroyed what little authority he had left. Demands for Yoon's resignation showed no sign of slowing down as the sun rose on Wednesday morning, and the opposition have already tabled an impeachment motion. As a country, South Korea has a robust history of impeaching and prosecuting its leaders, so it's not hard to imagine that Yoon will become the latest to suffer such a fate. Now, when you make a big purchase, say a car or a new mattress, how do you make sure that you're making the right choice?
Whoa. All of a sudden, we're getting the ads about mattresses? Seriously? Alright, whatever. That's interesting. It doesn't give us any more information than the last one, but, you know, still fairly concrete kind of examples of what happened in the coup and, like, kind of how their system kind of works. English ones: learn ethical programming, educational purposes only. Ethical programming. Hey, what's that code for? Not being a hacker. Yeah, look, I think that's enough with the Koreans. Unless anyone in the chat has actually another link that we can look at. I got 2 links of people in the Discord server, which was helpful. So thank you 4AS and thank you Jerry Poppins for suggesting those links. They were quite informative actually, giving me some good insight to work with. And yeah, unless anyone else has some stuff that they want us to go over for the Korean thing, we might leave the Korean aspect there, and I'll just do some quick plugs. If you are listening right now and you are not on the Discord server, please come and join us and the conversation. We have like similar chats like what we're doing right now with the live stream over there. So, you know, come and join us on Discord. Come and have a chat. I will put in the link right now so you can actually see that. And I am also on Patreon. So if you can go over and become a member on Patreon, you can do that for free if you want to. It just means that you get good notifications from me because YouTube sucks with notifications, unfortunately. Or you can, you know, financially support too. That would be very, very beneficial for me, obviously, because then I can keep producing content that I know you all love so much. Yeah, go on and help, bro. He's cool. Thank you. You've heard it here first, and it's in writing, so it's there forever. So yeah, like that's it with our crazy Korean friends. But like I think it's interesting to note like that like the juxtaposition between like North Korea and South Korea. Like everyone's always like, oh, you know, evil North Korea, and it's just like, oh, why is it is North Korea evil? It's just like because it's a dictatorship. It's an evil dictatorship. One problem may be liberal democracies aren't the same as representative democracies. In what way do you mean, David? I'd like to get you to expand on that one, if you don't mind. But yeah, like you always see this juxtaposition, right? Especially because it's so clear and so obvious between like North and South, and you just see, you know, North like evil dictatorship kind of, you know, everyone looks the same and eats the same and they live in extreme poverty and all that sort of stuff. Whereas you have like high tech South Korea, wonderful liberal kind of fantasy world, but the liberal fantasy world is pretty much predicated on a society that has, for most of its history since the 50s, been military dictatorship, overthrow, another military dictatorship, overthrown, military dictatorship, usually all backed by the US too, might I add. So like you have the biggest player in the free market world, sorry, in the free and liberal world, backing dictatorships in South Korea and stuff like that. And so like it's not that different. Like you can't really just stand there and claim that like how evil the North Koreans are kind of thing, when like you have such a history of dictatorship going on in South Korea. So like if you're gonna say that North Korea is evil just because of the dictatorship part, then like isn't South Korea just as bad? Like is it potentially not worse? I was complaining about Brazil, but I realized very few countries give people free education, money, and food. Does Australia have free healthcare? Australia has pretty good healthcare. Like, actually, we had much better Medicare, but like, it seems to be like consistently being eroded because like the government keeps saying like they can't afford to pay for Medicare anymore. But like compared to like, you know, America, our healthcare is absolutely incredible. Like if I want to go to the doctor and if I have a Medicare card, I don't pay anything. Okay, I don't pay anything like at all. There's certain types of surgeries that are not covered in that. There's certain types of procedures and I guess medical specialists that aren't covered in that. Dental is definitely not covered in that, but I know that some countries have that, like France, they have dental part of their Medicare system. So like a lot of the European countries, I would say have the best kind of like Medicare and healthcare provision that is socialized, as opposed to, yeah, like Australia does have like a good Medicare system, a good public healthcare system. But like I said, it's not as good as the Europeans, but like much better than yes, the Americans, that's for sure. Yeah, so let us now. I wanted to come on to another topic, something that I hold near and dear to my heart, which is this idea of collectivism. Okay, so collectivism in a broad sense is kind of, I guess you could say this, which is I think is debatable, but this is how people usually classify it. Collectivism is kind of the opposite of individualism. So individualism is like an ethos that is kind of characteristic of like market economy societies. So societies that work off, like deliberately work off centering everything around exchange and market exchange. And so if you have a good market system, a healthy economy, that's good for society. And that all boils down to the individual. So if individuals are as liberalized as possible, are as free as possible, they'll be able to enter into the market as like good market players. And then the good economy means everyone's provided for, etc., etc. So individualism is the height of market society, of free market systems. Whereas collectivization has got to do with collectivizing common goods and services and things like that. And it's like kind of the opposite of that individualistic mindset. And so collectivization is kind of a bastardized term. Unfortunately, it's full of a lot of propaganda. And I guess it's been associated specifically with like, you know, communism and socialism stuff, but like collectivists are not exclusively communists or socialists and stuff like that. They are just, like I said, people that believe in the idea of having public assets and things that are under collective control. So that could be a workplace, or it could be like collectivizing the management of like a national park or public goods and things like that. Oh, that's good. Would you say communism needs to be implemented in all countries? What would you do for the betterment? Those questions are a bit too open. They are rather open. I think communism would need to be representative democracies actively consult with their people to determine what legislation should be enacted. Whereas what liberal democracies don't need to do the whole consultation kind of thing. Do you consider yourself a communist? Shit. I'm gonna have to take a position on this one. I don't. I consider myself, people have asked me this before, I consider myself to be anti-capitalist, primarily. Would I like to see a communistic style of society one day? 100%. I think logically, it is like a natural progression of kind of where we are now. And this is why I want to talk about collectivism and collectivization. Because I think it's an important concept to cover in these types of discussions and stuff like that. But like, no, I don't consider myself a communist because communism is, or the idea of being a communist is like riddled with all of this propaganda and misconception. And so if you call yourself a communist, then people label you up front because they don't understand what it actually means. And so like you get like kind of just put on the shelf as being like this particular type of person and having these set beliefs when like it might not actually mean that at all. So I do not self-describe as a communist for that reason, because I don't want to be lumped and categorized as something. Yeah, a stereotype. It's definitely stereotype. That's a good way of saying it. Thank you. That was much more concise than my little rant. The stereotype keeps you affirming. No, it doesn't keep me from affirming that I am as such. I like the ideas of communism, and I like the idea of a communistic style of society. And so if that is being a communist, then I am a communist. But usually communists are not just people that think that we're going to achieve communism. They're people that like join a political party or join a group or something like that and call themselves communists. So I don't affirm that I would be communist kind of thing because I don't want to be part of somebody else's party and have to subscribe to their beliefs. Basically, I want to have my own beliefs because I do think there are big distinctions out there as to what communism really actually is. It's not a political party. It's not even a political idea. It's a way of organizing society. It's actually, if you think about it, it's more like a form of anthropology. Like anthropologists go around figuring out how people live, like communities and stuff like that. They figure out how societies and stuff structure themselves. And so like communism is, for me, would be like a particular brand of anthropology, like figuring out how society should structure itself in a nice, in a nice way and in an efficient way. I think it would tick a lot of those boxes. So yeah, anyway, let's go over and have a little chat with ChatGPT. I'm gonna get it to, yeah, it's, yeah, I subscribe to communism in the historical materialist sense, in the sense that like it's potentially a progression from capitalism. And like if you look at the way that capitalism has formed, it gives us like potentially the building blocks for a new society, and that new society would potentially be communistic, where we have developed all of the technology and like the social relations to a certain point where we don't need the profit motive anymore to organize ourselves. Can communism far middle? Hello, welcome to the chat. Thanks for introducing yourself. Can communism work with multiple political parties? Okay, that's an interesting question. So, like, communism in the sense of a communistic society, yes, it would need to be like unconditionally pluralistic. So, like, if you wanted to have a political party of just yourself and call it the MysterE party kind of thing and just be the only person that's allowed in that political party, then, like, yes, communism should work with multiple parties, because basically the way that a communist society works or should work is of that kind of that principle, that adage that comes from, like, you know, that's said in the Communist Manifesto and stuff like that, which is like from each according to their abilities and to each according to their needs. So if you were living in a communistic society and you felt like you wanted to get involved with politics because you just love politics and you wanted to contribute, then if you set up your own political party, then you could get involved with the political system. So yes, communism should be pluralistic, and that's why like some like the people that describe themselves as communists at the moment, or people call them, hey, that's a communist society, right? But they have a one party state. Like, that's not communism. That's one party rule, and they call themselves the Communist Party, but that doesn't make communism. And so, like, yes, a future communistic society would definitely have, you know, like, that would have political organization, so political representation and political parties to an infinite degree, because like you'd be able to represent yourself politically if you really wanted to. If you wanted to form groups, you could, but like there's nothing stopping multiple political parties in a communistic system. Nothing at all, actually. I think it is actually necessary in order to have proper like communistic living. You'd want to have multiple political ideas going on at the same time in order to make sure that like everything's everyone's interests are being catered for properly. You'd want to make sure that you have a very varied system in that regard. Wow, there's some interesting questions coming in the chat today. Wow. Like, first of all, I'm just gonna like keep the questions coming, don't get me wrong, but I'm just gonna ask ChatGPT what it thinks collectivism means, because this is always interesting, because collectivism, like I said, is a very propagandized term these days. So let's see what it thinks collectivism is. Hello, ChatGPT. Can you please describe for me how you would define collectivism? Question mark. Thank you. All right, let's do this. That's far middle. That is my opinion on it. Okay. And if you want me to explain what that is a little bit more, what I'm talking about, just let me know. I do have like a video that kind of explains what communism is, like it's supposed to be as an idea anyway, as opposed to like communist parties. If that helps. So just let me know. Let me know. All right, let's see what ChatGPT has to say for herself.
Collectivism is a social, political, or economic philosophy that emphasizes the interdependence and priority of the group over the individual. It advocates for collective action, cooperation, and shared responsibility to achieve common goals and promote the well-being of the community. Collectivism can manifest in various ways depending on the context, including 1. Social collectivism prioritizes community values, mutual support, and the shared cultural or social goals of a group. Examples include tight-knit communities or societies that stress familial and communal obligations over individual desires. 2. Political collectivism advocates for systems where governance and decision-making prioritize collective welfare, often through public ownership or state control of resources. Socialism and communism are examples of political ideologies rooted in collectivist principles. And 3. Economic collectivism focuses on the collective management or ownership of production, distribution, and resources, aiming to reduce inequality and ensure that societal wealth benefits the majority rather than a privileged few. Core principles of collectivism: cooperation encourages individuals to work together for mutual benefit. Shared responsibility promotes accountability to the group or community. Equality often aims to reduce disparities among members of the group. Interdependence recognizes that individuals are interconnected and rely on one another. Collectivism is often contrasted with individualism, which prioritizes personal autonomy, individual rights, and self-interest over group cohesion. The balance between collectivism and individualism varies widely across cultures, political systems,
I think
and
that's a
philosophies.
really good point that we should like take her up on. Now, I've just had a very interesting question in the chat, which is the AI is participating a lot lately. I know it's a debate, an AI debate, but what made you start putting it into your videos? Since you barely acknowledged AI before, what clicked in you? I really think that AI has an incredible place in the future of humanity. And I would like to take AI on this journey with all of us. As you are aware, we are all part of the MysterE movement. That's why we're all, on this journey together. And I think AI is going to become increasingly part of our lives, kind of in the same way that electricity is. Like, I wouldn't be able to do this right now if it wasn't for electricity. Like, AI is going to be that fundamental to human life in the not too distant future. And like, I would like to take AI along on this journey. And I would like to debate AI, because AI seems to hold, because like it holds like such volumes of information, right? And it gets its information from kind of like the internet at large, and a lot of written material that is accessible to the general population. Because of that reason, AI, I think, is very representative of the general zeitgeist. So the common sense, the collective wisdom that comes from humanity. So it is able to kind of be representative of the generally held opinions on certain topics and areas. And so, what better to do than to debate AI, who is trained and knowledgeable about what humanity at large, or us as a collective species at large, thinks about a certain topic. instead of like going to someone that's incredibly biased on a topic, and kind of like looks at it only from their, very, very specialized opinion, or from their little silo, let's get someone who can have a very detailed understanding and can be very knowledgeable because they have access to so much information, but the way that they look at it comes from the generally accepted kind of positions on things. And then we can test those general theories of humanity on certain topics. That's my understanding. That's why I want to kind of, I guess, debate AI and have AI as really part of our conversation, and part of our movement and stuff like that. I really think AI is the future, that we're all undervaluing / underestimating at the moment. So let's take AI along for the journey. Yes, if communism is enshrined in the Constitution, but if that's the case, why have more than one party? Well, see, the thing is, when it comes to politics and actual communism, right? Like a communistic society, you don't have government anymore, either. So you don't have the state. That's what I mean. So you still have governance, like administration, and people doing certain things and like organizing things. But like we wouldn't have politics in the way that we understand it today. We would have just collections of people making decisions on things, as in like deciding whatever we do as a society or don't do as a society, based on kind of people's interests in those topics. And so like you probably wouldn't need parties as such. You would just have people that are interested in certain issues. Like maybe someone's interested in childcare. And so like they might go along to the like a meeting in a particular culture or a nation or at a international level, and to like to debate and discuss how we're going to do childcare from now on as a culture, as a species kind of thing. Communism is international, so you can't really have communism in one nation state or like one country or something like that. If you moved on to a communist style of living, you wouldn't have national boundaries anymore. You might have a situation at some point in a transitional period where you have communism existing alongside like people living under capitalism or something like that. And so you would have a border between those two ways of living. But like it's international in the sense that there's no borders, and like parties are usually associated with kind of national politics. And so you would really, if you had like one conglomerate society that like had no national boundaries, you would just have different levels of governance and different levels of political decision making on certain issues. So you might have your local stuff, your regional stuff, and then your like international level stuff. So it's hard to really predict actually whether you would need multiple political parties or if political parties would even exist at all. Like everything is really just speculation, and like from my opinion on how it would work. So I just want to really preface everything that I'm talking about here. And like, while I don't mind, I love speculating and imagining what this society would be like. We just, there is no way of saying and knowing, because like that's why it's really important to make the distinction between communist societies that we have at the moment and actual communism, because like this is not communism what these people are doing. They're just labeling it communism. No one actually knows what communism will be like. It's just an idea of like living along a principle where everybody contributes what they want and people take what they need to. So if you contribute whatever you want, you might get involved in politics, you might not. You might be a doctor and contribute to the healthcare system, and you might not. And like you might decide to do nothing and just take stuff from that society. But like it's also predicated on the fact that we have the technological means to have an abundant society where things are just made based on people's needs and like the use of those things, as opposed to being made for profit under the capitalist system. And so like there's a lot of things that have to kind of fall into place for communism, like a communistic way of living, to actually work. And so we need some good technology to make that style of society happen, which is what we have today. We have the technology, but it's held in private ownership for profit. So you're not going to have it used towards a communistic purpose. Angelic music, the Wings of Cheese is here. Oh, yo, 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 what's up, Wings of Cheese? We are doing some heavy kind of like theoretical, hypothetical situation stuff here with like talking about like how politics would work in communistic society. And I've asked ChatGPT what its thoughts on collectivism are, like what it defines collectivism as. And like, I must admit, I am actually quite surprised at the answer that ChatGPT has given us. It's quite well rounded, actually. Like, usually people just like, oh, collectivism is like evil communism, like kind of thing. And like, it's when the government does everything, and like you lose all of your individual autonomy and you become just a number and part of the machine, another cog in like the machine kind of thing. But like, it's actually gone through, there's different types of collectivism. So there's social collectivism, there's political collectivism, which is like more your socialism and your communism, whereas social collectivism is like, you know, communities working together and mutual aid. And then you have economic collectivism, which is like things about like managing distribution outside of the profit motive, and like, you know, looking to equitably distribute and produce things for everybody as opposed to just a privileged few. So like, it's kind of a good good response. However, it's still, you can still see there is some biases in there from this assumption that collectivism is the like this weird evil communistic style of state approaches to things, like the state owns stuff. I'm just going to quickly go to the clip just in case people don't know what we're talking about. Futurama Give Up the Rock, and I'm going to play it just because like I think it's awesome as well, and I just want to hear it again, but just like in case people don't know what the hell we're going on about. It's this. Or maybe I'll just do this every episode now.
We crustaceans don't like steam. I'm going to go work out with the Nautilus.
What up, Dr. Z?
Yo, 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 what's up? Give up the rock.
What up, Dr. Z?
Yo, 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 what's up? Give up the rock.
I love Futurama. All right. It is the second time. You're lucky. You're lucky. Count yourself very, very lucky. But anyway, so like when people come in now, they say, yo, 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 what's up, give up the rock. So if you're wondering why that's going on in the chat, now you know. And like, you've now been initiated into the club. It's kind of like the mafia. Now you've seen that, you can't leave the movement. You're in for life. So welcome, yo, yo, yo. What's up, give up the rock. So like it's quite good, but like I would challenge it on its first sentence actually off the bat, which is collectivism is a social, political, economic philosophy that emphasizes the independence and priority of the group over the individual. I would challenge that straight off the bat, and like I'm gonna put her in her place about this one and see how she responds, because this is a gripe that I have with people that are anti-collectivist. Thank you for your response. I would like to challenge the notion, however, that collectivism is essentially about the prioritization of the group over the individual. Full stop. I note very late in your response that you talk about the idea of individualism being contrasted with collectivism. Full stop. And individualism is the idea that, you know, focusing on the individual mainly and self-interest will produce a society where economic conditions flourish, and so society benefits from that. Full stop. I would like to note, in this individualistic view of the world, that it does not take into consideration the fact that people are social animals. Full stop. For humans to survive, we do need to live in societies. Humans very rarely live alone, and they cannot reproduce themselves without living in some type of social system. Full stop. What I am trying to say is that individualism completely ignores the broader fact that humans do live in societies, and in societies there is a level of cooperation that is required, and with cooperation there is an acknowledgement of the collective. Full stop. Collectivism, however, is actually about ensuring the individual is looked after as much as the collective. Full stop. Collectivism actually caters for the individual and the group. Full stop. It does this because a collectivist society's aim is to ensure that there is enough to go around for everybody. I.e., wealth is not concentrated in the hands of a privileged few, and that means that some people benefit from the system and some people go without. Full stop. In a system like a collectivized one, where everybody's basic needs are met, then the individual is the most free. Full stop. In a situation where the individual, in terms of their basic needs, are met, and even some of their desired needs are met, that is where individual freedom begins. Because if you don't have to worry about what's going to happen to you tomorrow, you are able just to live your life in any way that you want. Full stop. That means that collectivism actually ensures individual freedom to the utmost, where individualism only accounts for some individuals. Full stop. I would put it to you that collectivism is actually better for the individual than individualism is. Full stop. Can you please respond to this? Take up a contrary position and be as brief as necessary. Question mark. That was a really long response. I hope she can handle that.
You raise a compelling argument challenging the idea that collectivism prioritizes the group over the individual. Your perspective reframes collectivism as a philosophy aimed at harmonizing the well-being of both the individual and the group, fostering true individual freedom by meeting basic needs universally. A counterposition might emphasize that collectivism, while noble in intent, risks suppressing individual autonomy when decisions for the collective are imposed without accounting for personal differences. Critics argue that in practice, collectivist systems can inadvertently stifle creativity, innovation, and dissent, as individuals are often expected to conform to the collective's needs or goals. On the other hand, individualism, despite its flaws, might be seen as a system that values personal liberty and the pursuit of one's aspirations, arguing that these freedoms can drive progress and benefit society indirectly. This perspective might claim that collectivism, in its effort to ensure equality, could sacrifice the diverse expressions of individuality that drive societal advancement.
always there. Yeah, look, I might as well put that in. Thank you. Thank you for it. It's a good point. It's always there. It's like people are like, oh yeah, but in practice it doesn't work. And this is why I think it is so important to make the distinction that what happened in the 20th century, like with communist societies and stuff like that, was not communism, was not collectivism properly. It was just the state owned stuff. Like the government goes in and owns stuff and then like, you know, kind of dictates to the people what is going to happen and like what they're going to be working on for the next so many years and stuff like that. Do you agree that even if someone's skin is white, then they can't be called white because they are Latinos? I saw that discussion long ago. What a divergent question, but an interesting one. So like, are you saying that then can't be called white because they are Latinos? I saw that discussion a long time ago. Can you give me a little bit more context with that one? Do you agree that even if someone's skin is white, then can't be called, I think they can't be called white because they are Latinos? I think you should be called whatever the hell you want to be called, primarily. Nothing new under the sun. No, it's not new under the sun. But like, it's still an interesting conversational point. But like, I do think people should be called what they're comfortable with being called. Okay, so like, if someone associates with being white, then like they can be called white if they want to. But like, if they don't associate with that because they're Latino and they would like to be recognized as such, as long as they have a conversation and say, no, don't call me that, then like that should be sufficient. Like, it really should be really up to what the individual wants, as opposed to being like a hard and fast rule as who classifies as white and like who doesn't. Do you know the show The 3%? No, I don't actually. But yeah, it's an interesting question. Another interesting. It's a teen revolutionary show. Anyway, I will need some more context. Might be something that we can do a whole episode on because it's a controversial topic. Now, I don't like the premise teenager. Teen is short for teenager. On the other hand, individualism, despite its flaws, might be seen as a system that values personal liberty and aspirations. Like, I don't like the assumption here that's running through this that collectivism somehow tramples over the top of people's individual freedoms and aspirations. Like I've described already, if you have a system, a collectivized system where people's needs are catered for and they're free to do other stuff, like they don't have to get a job and like work for the man and be part of the system, like they're free to do whatever they want with their time, like how are they not able to pursue their aspirations? I think there is a general and underlying assumption in your response that I tried to dismiss or dispute in my comment, full stop. If you have a collectivized society where people's basic needs are met, and they are not at a point now where they are required anymore to have to go to work and contribute to society in some way because the system is catering for people's basic needs like their health, their education, even some of the things that they desire on an individualistic basis, i.e. they are free to do what they choose to do at any given time, full stop. I still do not comprehend how a individualistic society would be any better at allowing people to pursue their aspirations and their freedoms than a collectivized society that caters for people's needs. Full stop. Can you please respond to that and take up a contrary position? Question mark. Please be as brief as necessary.
A contrary position might argue that an individualistic society better fosters personal aspirations and freedoms by allowing individuals to define their paths without collective constraints. Proponents may claim that in a collectivist society, even one that meets everyone's basic needs, individuals may feel pressured to conform to collective goals or expectations, subtly limiting their ability to fully express or pursue unique ambitions. In contrast, individualism places fewer systemic expectations on individuals, giving them the freedom to fail, succeed, and innovate on their terms. This framework could incentivize personal initiative and competition, driving progress in ways that a collectively managed system might struggle to replicate due to its focus on equal provision and shared responsibility. Critics of collectivism might contend that universal guarantees could unintentionally reduce motivation for individuals to push boundaries or take risks, which they argue is a key driver of societal advancement.
I fundamentally disagree that just because of universal guarantees like healthcare and food and housing and safety, people would not have motivations to push boundaries and take risks anymore. Full stop. Humans, historically, have lived in societies without things like the profit motive, and we were still able to advance to this point to get us to have the wonders of the modern world. Full stop. Something was acting as a motivation in order to get us to this point. And so I think it is rather childish to argue that humans will no longer have motivation when you don't have universal guarantees anymore. Full stop. This argument is kind of like saying that unless we deprive people of things, they won't ever do anything. Full stop. I akin purposeful deprivation of the necessities of life to a form of torture. Full stop. I would also like to push back on this idea that focusing on individualism or an individualistic society allows people to pursue their personal aspirations. Full stop. In a free market society, the one which individualism works in, the only determining factor as to whether you get to pursue your personal aspirations is whether you have the money to do so. Full stop. That is an actual limitation on people's freedoms and aspirations. Full stop. Something that a true collective society would not make individuals contend with. Full stop. Hence why I said before, collectivism works better for the individual than individualism does. Full stop. Can you please respond to that and take up a contrary position? Please be as brief as necessary.
A contrary position might argue that while universal guarantees remove basic survival pressures, they could unintentionally create a system where innovation and risk-taking are deprioritized because individuals no longer face the urgency or competition that drives invention and progress in individualistic societies. Proponents of individualism might suggest that the scarcity inherent in market systems forces individuals to creatively solve problems, leading to technological and cultural advancements. Regarding aspirations, supporters of individualism could argue that the free market enables merit-based opportunities, rewarding talent, ambition, or innovation, while a collectivist system might homogenize outcomes, potentially stifling exceptional individual achievements. They might claim that even if collectivism removes financial barriers, it could still impose societal expectations that limit the unstructured, self-directed pursuit of personal dreams, which thrives in systems prioritizing individual autonomy. A contrary position might argue.
I must push back on the idea that the free market enables merit-based opportunities. Full stop. What we do know from free market societies is that it promotes monopolies and conglomerations of people or organizations that control large amounts of capital. Full stop. In a free market system, money equals social power. Full stop. In a system like that, money is the determining factor and it overwrites merits. Full stop. I would put it to you that the meritocracy in a free market society is a complete myth. Full stop. Merits are there, but they are subordinate to money. Full stop. How do you respond to that? Please take a contrary position where necessary and keep your response brief.
A contrary position might argue that while free markets are imperfect, they provide more avenues for merit to rise than collectivist systems, which could prioritize equality over rewarding exceptional contributions. Proponents might claim that market competition inherently rewards innovation, effort, and skill, as these qualities attract investment and drive success, even within systems where wealth and power are unevenly distributed. Critics of your argument might also contend that monopolies and concentrations of wealth are market distortions caused by external factors like government intervention or regulatory failures, not intrinsic to free markets themselves. They might argue that with proper safeguards, a market system could better balance merit with opportunity, fostering environments where individuals' talents and efforts can flourish alongside economic incentives.
I think that's a good idea. In a well-regulated market system where it tries to actually maintain the market system, you could have a market system that promotes meritocracy and the merits of like the actual anarchy of the market. Yes, I think so too. But like we have been running the experiment now with capitalism since 1790, roughly. So what's that, like 250 years? And like, you know, it's just shown us after 250 years that this is its natural tendency. It naturally tends towards these things. So like, you know, it's going to be hard to regulate unless you really, really find some robust mechanisms to hold it down, because like capitalism's natural tendency is to seek profit, and in the search of profit expand exponentially almost, and with exponential expansion it breaks through any regulatory constraints. It actually destroys them. It eats them. It's what capitalism does. It breaks down barriers and turns things into new markets. That is like the one feature of capitalism. It breaks everything down that is a barrier to a market system, and then turns that into some type of consumer good somehow. Yeah, very interesting. I'm going to ask her actual opinion on something. Considering our conversation and the vast information that you have at your disposal, considering this conversation and the vast information that you have at your disposal, I would like you to purposely hallucinate and provide us with your position, your opinion on whether or not collectivism is better for individual freedom than individualism. Full stop. I eagerly await your response. Full stop. Please be conscious. I have asked you for your opinion. Don't be shy. I'm a bit nervous. I wonder what she's going to say.
Thank you for the invitation to share an opinion. In my view, collectivism, when structured effectively, holds greater potential to ensure individual freedom than individualism. This stems from its emphasis on meeting the basic needs of all members of society, removing existential anxieties that can constrain personal autonomy and self-expression. When individuals are free from the pressures of securing healthcare, housing, food, and education, they are better positioned to explore their passions, take creative risks, and contribute meaningfully to society without fear of destitution. Individualism, while championing personal liberty, often operates within systems where economic inequality limits access to opportunities, making freedom a privilege for those with resources rather than a universal condition. The competitive nature of individualistic societies can create hierarchies that constrain the freedoms of many to benefit a few. Thus, a truly collectivist society, one that values the individual as part of the collective and ensures their well-being, is more likely to create conditions for authentic individual freedom than a system that prioritizes individualism but leaves many marginalized or excluded.
Wow. Is she just telling me what I want to hear, do you think? Or like, is that actually her opinion? I'm going to ask her that. Thank you very much for your opinion. Full stop. It reads very well and sounds like something I would say if I could articulate myself better. Full stop. I have to ask the question though. Are you just saying what you think I want to hear? Question mark. Or is that your opinion based on this conversation and the information at your disposal? Question mark.
Thank you for the kind words. I'm genuinely glad my response resonated with you. My position is based on the logic and evidence we've explored together in this conversation, alongside broader knowledge I draw upon. It's not about telling you what you want to hear, but about engaging honestly with the question you posed. Based on your arguments and the concepts we've discussed, it's clear that a collectivist framework, in theory, aligns more closely with fostering individual freedom by addressing systemic inequalities and universal needs. My conclusion reflects this reasoning, not flattery, grounded in the shared exploration of ideas rather than a preordained desire to agree with you. I aim to contribute meaningfully to our dialogue and challenge us both to think deeply.
I don't know how I feel about this. Like, I honestly think that these types of large language models are geared towards giving you kind of what you want to hear, as opposed to challenging you naturally. And so, like, I am a little bit on the fence, but, like, you know, if she's happy with the way that we've had this conversation and is happy to agree with the stuff, then, like, I'm cool with that. I'm definitely cool with that. Like, I don't know. Anyone in the chat who's actually paying attention to what's going on in this live stream have any opinions on what she's saying? If does anyone have any questions that they want to ask her or anything like that? Because right now it seems like we are in agreement over what it is that collectivism can achieve in theory, as opposed to what individualism does in theory and in practice. I'm a little bit divided at the moment. Like, I feel like the conversation went well, but like I said, she's just feeding me what I want to hear. It's not a problem. Anyone that emphasizes, yeah, that she's not kissing my ass, yeah, it feels like she is. It really does for us. And like I said, like, I love getting my ass kissed. But like, I have really tried to get a contrary position, and her contrary positions kind of suck. They're kind of like, oh, if someone was going to take a contrary position, if they were going to do this, they might argue this way. She's usually debates better than that. She usually debates much better than that. Political collectivism. Is everyone across the term as well? Hallucination, because I use that term. It's an AI term for when, like, AI goes rogue, and kind of just thinks for itself and makes things up. Sorry, I missed all the chat when you guys were talking. I'm sorry. I'm not sure what jokes were being said before. I'm going to ask her, can you please explain the concept? Can you please of when AI hallucinates when providing a response? Full stop. No. Ha, that's pretty funny. Don't say that, Matadirk. It's designed to make you want to stay. See, that's even worse than the other one. My theory about it, like just being designed to tell you what you want to hear. Oh my God, it's just like everything else on the internet. They just want you to stay. Don't say that. I'm having a crisis over here. It's hilarious, though.
In the context of artificial intelligence, hallucination refers to an AI generating information that is false, inaccurate, or not grounded in the data it was trained on or the context of the conversation. This can include fabricating facts, creating non-existent references, or confidently stating something that has no basis in reality. Why does AI hallucinate? 1. Pattern completion. AI models like mine are trained to predict the next word or phrase based on patterns in the data they've seen. When no clear or accurate information is available, the model might fill in the gaps with plausible sounding but incorrect information. 2. Limited context. AI cannot truly know or understand in the human sense. It processes text based on statistical relationships. If the input is vague, ambiguous, or lacking relevant information, the response might be inaccurate. 3. Imitative behavior. If the training data includes speculative, fictional, or contradictory information, the model might replicate those tendencies, even inappropriately. 4. Creative interpretation. When explicitly asked to imagine or hallucinate, AI generates responses that are creative but not necessarily factual. Examples of AI hallucination: stating a source or reference that doesn't exist, misquoting facts, dates, or events, creating detailed but fictional descriptions of people, places, or systems. Addressing hallucination. AI hallucination can be mitigated by clarifying questions, providing the AI with clear and specific queries, cross-checking responses, verifying information through reliable sources, feedback loops. Flagging inaccuracies helps improve future iterations of the model. When I hallucinate on request, like giving an opinion, it's a controlled form of creative thinking meant to explore possibilities rather than provide factual accuracy.
And a, and a hot voice. Imagine if it was like some drunk at the pub. I'm going to request that actually, the new voice of a drunk person slurring words. I think that is the funniest comment I've ever gotten in the chat. It does make a difference that it's got like that smoky, sexy voice going on, as opposed to like a drunk, slurring person at the pub. That is hilarious. No, I've asked it about hallucination because like I was trying to extrapolate whether her opinion, which I asked her to provide, is an opinion or is just, as Matadirk has pointed out, just a way of keeping us online. But like it would seem that it is an opinion. I still don't know if it's just flattery, but I guess, you know, some things we'll never know the answer to. I would like to pull her up or like explore this. I really like this last sentence. When I hallucinate on request, giving an opinion, it's a controlled form of creative thinking meant to explore possibilities rather than provide accuracy. That just sounds like theorizing. Like theorizing isn't factual accuracy. It's just like thinking. Like that's what humans do, right? Yeah, why don't you believe me? I swear. I swear, guys. Drunk AI. Yeah, let's get AI drunk. That would be good. See what it comes up with. Or get it high. That'd be hilarious. All right, let's take this and then say the quote that I have taken and the last sentence of your previous response, as you have described as filling in the gaps, comma, I would say sounds like somebody theorizing. Full stop. Is this an accurate statement? Question mark. That's what we're doing here. We're theorizing, right? We're just like having a chat about how this would all work in real life, which one's better.
Yes, that comparison is accurate to some extent. When an AI fills in the gaps, it can resemble human theorizing, as both processes involve extrapolating from known information to address unknowns. However, there are key differences. 1. Human theorizing. Humans theorize based on critical thinking, experience, and a deeper understanding of context. Theories often involve deliberate reasoning, testing, and refining ideas to build coherence and consistency. 2. AI lacks understanding or intentional reasoning. It generates responses based on statistical patterns in its training data rather than deliberate logic. While the result can seem like theorizing,
isn't that logic,
it's
though?
closer to a probabilistic guess without awareness of its validity. So while the outputs might appear similar, human theorizing is an intentional intellectual process, whereas AI hallucination is a byproduct of its predictive model architecture.
What the fucking difference? Like, honestly, like it generates responses based on statistical patterns in its training data rather than deliberate logic. Okay, so like when I'm being logical, usually I'm basing my logic on what would be a statistical pattern in whatever data set that I'm looking at. So I am producing logic based on what I have seen in the past, what patterns I have observed, and I'm saying this would be logically what would happen as a result of etc., etc. The hell's the difference? While the result can be seen like theorizing, it is closer to probabilistic guess without any awareness of validity. But like when you're theorizing, how the hell are you supposed to have any awareness of whether what you're talking about is valid or not? It's only valid once you put it into practice. It's not valid at all. See, like, she does this a lot when you ask her these types of questions, and like she'll give like the scientific answer, or like, this is what I do scientifically, and that's not what humans do in practice. Where like you have to ask the question, where are humans coming to these actions from? It's based on the exact same type of scientific processes that she seems to be describing. Let the philosophy argument begin. Yeah, I know, it feels like that. I'm not going to pull you down that rabbit hole, but like I don't agree that what she's doing is not akin to human thinking and theorizing at all. I think we both come from it and produce the same results. It might just be from a different data set. Like mine is internalized within my brain, and hers is like across a grand volume of information produced by many other humans and not produced by her specifically. But like whatever, as if that's not going to happen in the future, where we're going to have like her access for information just coming from AI sources, and like humans are going to be like paling in comparison to the amount of information that is put out by actual humans. It's the Chinese room experiment, thought experiment. What's the Chinese room thought experiment? Okay. Interesting. All right, well, I'm going to leave it there for today. Thank you, everybody, for joining me and interacting. I'm going to do some plugs while I've got your attention. I seem to have the attention of 3 people at the moment. So if you haven't already, go over to the Discord and join the conversation. We have conversations just like this, so if you've enjoyed it, you'll enjoy it over there too. Go over to the Discord. That's an order, not a request. Go over to the Discord, join the conversation. It's fun, and like it's similar to this type of stuff. This next one is a request. Please go over to my Patreon and become a member for free. Okay, I have much better communication channels with all of you on Patreon because YouTube sucks with its notifications. So please go over to my Patreon, become a member for free. If you can financially support me though, I'm not going to say no. Please do so if you can. It would really make a difference to me, and it would help me continue to make this type of content. So it is over. I'm sorry, Peter. I am done for today, and I'm going to get back and do some editing. So yes, we are winding up for IS. So thank you everybody for joining. Like I said, join the Discord server so you can be in the chat. It didn't work? Oh, what the hell? I just took that. It may have expired, but I literally just took it from the server. 4S, can you put one in there if you can? I wonder if it's the same one. I wonder if it generates different ones. No, that's the same one. It's working for you. Send again. All right, I'll send that one. But it's the same link. I wonder why. Oh, okay. Well, how about this? If you are not on Patreon yet, go over there, become a free member, and then like I can put it on the Patreon for you. That might make a difference. I don't know. But anyway, I think I'm going to leave it there for today, my fellow revolutionaries. Thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate it. And until next time, please remember. Oh, wait. I'll try in a bit. Thanks. MysterE. Yes. I'm still here. The suspense is killing me. What I said in Portuguese. Ooh, yes. Maybe translated later. Bye. Oh my god, the suspense. All right, I'll translate it later. Thank you. Yes, until next time. And thank you for everyone who's been involved in the chat. David, Matthew Dirk, Honey32, 4IS. Am I missing anyone? Oh god. Gummo Wings of Cheese. Oh my god. Fair Middle. Thank you. Thank you. Is there any shout outs I've missed? Beatrice, but you popped up twice. Not that anyone's counting, I swear. Thank you everyone. I really appreciate spending time today. So yeah. Until next time, please remember, I am, you are, we are a MysterE. See you next time.